Everyone, it is February week 3. We have some new features to demo. Let's get started. Devin, why don't you take it away?
All right, everybody. I'm going to be showing off a what I call a pre-alpha server-side SQL feature right here, where instead of using the Deephaven language to construct tables, you can use SQL to construct tables. So you can see in this example, I've got a deephaven.sql package, and I have this function called execute SQL. This is a very simple construction right here. I'm creating two tables off of the bat using the traditional Deephaven syntax. And then for this third query right here, you can see I am doing some joining on that data and then selecting all the results. And we should be able to run it here. And let's make sure it works. Hey, so there we go. So we've got our authors that's ticking. We've got books that are ticking, and then we've got our results table that contains the data joined together ticking. It's kind of, not a very realistic query, but it shows some of the basics. And I'm printing some stuff out here. I'll talk a little bit about the implementation. This is all powered by Apache Calcite, which is a SQL parser, query optimizer, and it's a lot of very modular components that you can use for a lot of different purposes. So at the moment right now, we are only using it for SQL parsing, and then we're translating it into Deephaven queries. We're not using any of the query optimization stuff here, although that's a potential in the future. And again, this is a pre-alpha demo right here. So there we go. So we're using Calcite to parse this SQL right here, translate it into Deephaven calls, and get out our table. I'm printing out a couple of things here for information purposes. So this is the logical plan that Calcite has parsed out. There's a lot to here, but essentially we know there is a logical structure right here, and then we can then after we translate it into a Deephaven QST query syntax tree, I've just got a helper method that prints it out here so you can visualize it in a GraphViz format. So if we go ahead and take this GraphViz over here, we can paste it out. And this is kind of the plan that we've got now. We've got a books ticket table, authors ticket table, some views on that, a join on that, and then our ultimate view on that we're getting out here. I'm going to show off some other functionality that looks very similar to this. There's a lot of built-in SQL functions that we now support or will support soon. There's more that we don't support, but here's a simple timetable, and I'm going to be doing a lot of different functions on it. I'm going to be doing some math. I'm going to get out pi, random number, the current timestamp, some logical operations, some literals, some not null checks, some null checks, some log stuff, some math stuff, blah, blah, blah. It's a couple things we don't support and a lot more things we don't support, but I'm currently working on that. So if we go ahead and run this SQL function right here, we'll get out a new table, and you can see we are ticking, and all of these things are updating from a SQL query. So I'm not going to go into too much more detail in here, and I've thrown in some null values as well, just to show that it works depending on whether it's null or not null. Here's a SQL query that's an implicit join. So as opposed to this one, we're explicitly saying this was an inner join, SQL also supports implicit joins. So if we run this, it is also correctly translated into a Deephaven query. We could go look at the logical plan in the GraphViz if we wanted to. We also support where, or we will support where functions, so you can filter down the results. Here's a simple one where it's only going to show rows where I is greater than 5 and less than 10. So we'll go ahead and run this, and it's going to take a couple of seconds. So is this correct? I think this is actually incorrect. Well, that looks like a bug that I probably have to look at. I'm not sure where things went wrong, because that doesn't look like it's satisfying the query. So maybe this one's wrong too. We'll skip to a different one. But you can also do like is not null checks and stuff like that, or math in these expressions as well. Or you could do a multi-way join. Here's a three-way implicit join between a couple of timetables where I want to join on index, and I'm only going to show the rows if time 1 is less than time 2 is less than time 3. So if we go ahead and run this right here, we've got a three-way join here, and it looks like it's doing, I'm not sure if this math is actually correct or not, but it's doing something. So like I said, it's pre-alpha, but there's a lot more that get done here, and a lot of different operators that we might want to support in the future. So look for this in the coming, probably not this release, but probably the next release will probably have some preliminary server-side SQL support.
All right, and I am next, so let me share my screen. Tab, Deephaven. All right, so today I am going to be showing a little bit of work that I've done that stems from yesterday. Jean-Fang, one of our developers, messaged me and said, hey, Colin noticed a user submitted issue in Deephaven core that slipped through the cracks. How can we keep a better eye on this stuff? And I said, you know, I'll try to do better. I'll try to keep more of an eye on this stuff, but it's kind of tough when, you know, not only the dev team, but DevRel wears a lot of hats. We're busy all the time. And then I remembered that where Jean-Fang pointed out a Python module to pull information from GitHub. And then I just remember that GitHub has a really nice REST API. And that REST API gives you all of the information you could need about basically anything related to GitHub, so long as you have access to that GitHub assets. So repositories, if they're public, you can pull all the information. Private repositories, if your user has access to them, you can pull information from them. So one thing, especially as an organization like Deephaven, when we are working on code that's openly available in GitHub, we want to make sure we stay on top of user-submitted issues or feature requests or things like that. And so what I've got here is a query that takes my my GitHub username as well as my GitHub personal access token from environment variables, and then it queries the GitHub REST API from using the Python requests package. And so what it does is it pulls data from all of the issues from Deephaven, from GitHub's REST API. It filters out pull requests because from the API's perspective, a pull request is an issue. And then so long as the issue is not closed, it writes it to the table. It also does a little bit of logic in Deephaven to separate out the issues that were created by a Deephaven user. So here is a table that has information on every single issue that's currently open in our GitHub. You can see there's quite a few, and this number 659 actually lines up with, if you go to the Deephaven core repository, how many issues are currently open. The other thing that it does is it pulls a list of all of the organization's members, and then it does a natural join on these two tables on this filer column with this username column to see what lines up and what doesn't. So in the case of right now, we have 32 issues raised by by external contributors. Some of these are either former employees or interns from previous summers, but there are a couple which we can see where they are submitted by external users. So basically all that's left to do at this point is to marry this with a Python Slack bot that and then run this on a cron job maybe once a day or something like that, and spit out some information to a Slack channel where we can you know, keep a better eye on this stuff, and any of the devs or DevRel, anybody else who's interested or, you know, wants to keep a closer eye on this stuff can take a look. And there's a lot more information available about these issues as well that I would like to stick in here eventually, but this is kind of just a prototype for right now. So that's it.
Thank you. That's it for this week. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Those are some pretty damn great demos.